Why do we dream? Each night, as we close our eyes and drift into sleep, our minds embark on a journey beyond the physical world. We step into a realm where time bends, reality shifts, and the impossible becomes possible. This is the world of dreams, a mysterious landscape shaped by our subconscious, filled with symbols, emotions, and hidden messages waiting to be deciphered. But why do we dream? What purpose do these nightly visions serve? And what secrets do they reveal about our inner selves? Dreams have fascinated humanity for centuries, inspiring mythology, art, and even scientific inquiry. In ancient civilizations, dreams were considered divine messages, guiding people through life's uncertainties. Today, science offers a more psychological perspective, suggesting that dreams help us process emotions, consolidate memories, and even prepare for future challenges. But beyond these theories lies a deeper, more personal meaning, one that connects us to the vast, uncharted territory of our subconscious mind. Our waking lives are filled with thoughts, emotions, and experiences that we may not fully process in the moment. The subconscious mind, however, never stops working. It absorbs everything, the joys, the fears, the unresolved tensions, and weaves them into dream narratives. Sometimes our dreams replay familiar scenarios, while other times they transport us to surreal, otherworldly places. They may introduce us to strangers who feel oddly familiar, or confront us with emotions we try to suppress. In this way, dreams serve as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, helping us understand ourselves in ways our waking thoughts cannot. One of the most intriguing aspects of dreaming is the presence of symbols: a vast ocean, a locked door, a soaring bird. These images carry meanings unique to each dreamer. While psychologists like Carl Jung believed in universal symbols that connect all of humanity, dreams are also deeply personal. A recurring dream of being chased, for example, may signify unresolved stress, while a dream of flight could represent freedom or aspiration. By paying attention to these symbols, we gain insight into our emotional state, revealing anxieties, desires, and even unspoken fears. Dreams also allow us to rehearse real-life situations, offering a safe space to explore possible outcomes. In a dream, we can face fears without consequence, practice difficult conversations, or work through dilemmas that trouble us in waking life. This function of dreaming suggests that our minds are actively problem-solving while we sleep, preparing us for challenges we might encounter. Some of the world's greatest ideas and creative breakthroughs have emerged from dreams. Artists, writers, and scientists have long credited their dreams with providing inspiration, proving that this unconscious world is a fertile ground for creativity and innovation. At times, dreams may feel like mere fragments of the day, scattered thoughts without meaning. Other times, they may evoke deep emotions, leaving us with lingering feelings upon waking. Nightmares, in particular, can be unsettling, yet they often point to unresolved fears or inner conflicts. While distressing, they also provide an opportunity for self-exploration, revealing aspects of our psyche that need attention and healing. Lucid dreaming, the phenomenon of becoming aware within a dream, offers another fascinating layer of exploration. Those who practice lucid dreaming can sometimes control their dreamscape, turning the unconscious experience into a conscious adventure. This ability not only enhances self-awareness, but also allows dreamers to confront fears, manifest desires, and experience a heightened sense of freedom. So why do we dream? Perhaps the answer is as vast and complex as the human mind itself. Dreams remind us that we are more than our waking selves. We are storytellers, travelers, and seekers in an endless subconscious universe. They whisper secrets about our emotions, guide us towards self-discovery, and occasionally grant us glimpses into the unknown. Whether profound, bizarre, or fleeting, each dream is a piece of the intricate puzzle of our inner world, inviting us to listen, reflect, and embrace the mysteries of the subconscious. How thoughts shape reality, the science of mindset. The human mind is an incredible force. It drives our actions, governs our emotions, and shapes the reality we experience. From the moment we wake up to when we sleep, our thoughts are constantly molding our perceptions of ourselves, others, and the world. Understanding how our mindset influences our reality can unlock transformative potential for growth and well-being. At its core, the connection between thoughts and reality is deeply rooted in the science of the brain. Our brains are not static organs. They are adaptive and constantly processing information, filtering it through our beliefs, expectations, and experiences. This filtering process shapes how we see the world. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself and form new neural connections, plays a central role in this. As we think and behave in particular ways, our brains strengthen specific neural pathways, making certain patterns of thinking more automatic. Over time, these pathways shape the way we perceive and interact with reality. For example, when we consistently adopt a positive mindset, we strengthen pathways related to confidence and optimism. This leads to a more empowered experience of the world, where we are better equipped to handle challenges and setbacks. Conversely, negative thought patterns strengthen pathways related to fear, anxiety, and self-doubt, which can hold us back from achieving our potential. Mindset, as defined by psychologist Carol Dweck, can be classified into two categories: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Those with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities and intelligence are fixed, which leads them to avoid challenges and give up easily. On the other hand, those with a growth mindset believe that abilities can be developed through effort and learning. This mindset fosters resilience and perseverance, as people with a growth mindset embrace challenges and view failure as an opportunity for growth. Our mindset doesn't just influence how we view ourselves. It also shapes how we interpret and respond to external events, reinforcing how we experience the world. The mind-body connection is another powerful aspect of how thoughts shape reality. Our thoughts don't just influence our emotions and perceptions, they also affect our physical health. The placebo effect is one of the most well-known examples of this, where patients who believe they are receiving treatment, even if they are not, experience significant improvements in their condition. This demonstrates how belief and mindset can impact physical health. Similarly, negative thoughts and chronic stress can contribute to a variety of health issues, such as heart disease, weakened immune function, and digestive problems. By cultivating a positive mindset, we can reduce the harmful effects of stress and promote better health. One of the simplest and most effective ways to reshape our reality is through positive thinking. This isn't about ignoring difficulties, but rather focusing on the potential for growth and solutions in any given situation. Positive thinking can reduce stress, improve cardiovascular health, and boost motivation. It shifts our attention away from obstacles and toward possibilities, making us more resilient and likely to succeed. However, positive thinking is not about denying negative emotions or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about choosing to approach life with a mindset that focuses on resilience, hope, and growth. We can actively reshape our reality by becoming aware of our thought patterns and consciously cultivating a mindset that empowers us. Practices like gratitude, mindfulness, and visualization can help create lasting change. Gratitude shifts our focus to the positive aspects of life, while mindfulness encourages awareness of our thoughts and emotions, allowing us to respond more effectively. Visualization, or imagining ourselves succeeding, can increase motivation and enhance performance. Most importantly, adopting a growth mindset, embracing challenges and seeing setbacks as opportunities can foster long-term success and fulfillment. Ultimately, our thoughts are not just fleeting mental events. They are the creators of the reality we experience. By changing the way we think, we can change how we perceive the world and shape a life filled with greater joy, success, and meaning. The power to transform our reality lies within us, and it starts with the thoughts we choose to cultivate. The power of the brain, how neuroplasticity changes, who we are. The brain is one of the most complex and fascinating organs in the human body. Its ability to shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions is unparalleled. And what makes it truly extraordinary is its capacity to change. For many years, scientists believed that the brain's structure and function were largely fixed after a certain age. However, recent discoveries have revealed a remarkable truth. The brain is capable of profound transformation throughout our entire lives. This incredible ability is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections in response to learning, experience, or injury. It is a dynamic and ongoing process that occurs every day, allowing the brain to adapt, grow, and rewire itself based on the experiences we encounter. Whether we are learning a new skill, recovering from a traumatic injury, or simply changing the way we think, neuroplasticity plays a pivotal role in shaping who we are and how we experience the world. The concept of neuroplasticity is both empowering and transformative. It means that the brain is not a static organ, but rather a flexible and ever-evolving one. The patterns of thought, behavior, and emotion that we develop over time are not permanent. They can be altered, reshaped, and improved with intentional effort. This understanding opens up a world of possibilities for personal growth, healing, and self-improvement. By tapping into the power of neuroplasticity, we can change the way we think, feel, and behave, ultimately creating a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Rewiring the brain, the mechanics of neuroplasticity. To understand the true power of neuroplasticity, it's important to first explore how the brain rewires itself. The brain is made up of billions of neurons that communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. These neurons form intricate networks that govern everything from basic bodily functions to complex thoughts and emotions. The connections between these neurons are called synapses, and the strength of these connections determines the efficiency and speed with which information is processed. When we engage in a new activity or learn something new, our brain creates new synapses and strengthens existing ones. This process allows us to develop new skills, expand our knowledge, and adapt to new experiences. For example, when we learn to play a musical instrument, our brain forms new neural pathways that help us coordinate our hands, read music, and process sound. As we practice, these pathways become stronger and the skill becomes more automatic. Similarly, neuroplasticity allows us to rewire our brain in response to changes in our environment, behavior, or mindset. If we consistently practice positive thinking, for example, we create neural pathways that reinforce optimistic, solution-oriented thought patterns. On the other hand, negative thought patterns, such as anxiety or self-doubt, can also become ingrained in the brain if they are repeatedly reinforced. The good news is that the brain's ability to change means that we can choose to rewire these pathways, replacing negative thoughts with more constructive ones. One of the most remarkable aspects of neuroplasticity is its ability to occur at any age. While it is often thought that neuroplasticity is most active in childhood, research has shown that the brain remains highly adaptable throughout life. Whether we are in our 20s, 50s, or even older, our brains continue to form new connections and reorganize themselves in response to our experiences. This is particularly exciting because it means that we have the power to improve our cognitive abilities, emotional resilience, and overall well-being at any stage in life. Neuroplasticity and healing. One of the most powerful applications of neuroplasticity is in the realm of healing. Once a brain is injured, whether due to a stroke, trauma, or disease, it can often reorganize itself to compensate for lost function. This ability to repair and recover is a direct result of neuroplasticity. Through rehabilitation, therapy, and other interventions, the brain can form new connections that help restore lost abilities and functions. For example, after a stroke, patients may experience weakness or paralysis on one side of the body. Through physical therapy and repetitive exercises, the brain can create new pathways to bypass damaged areas, allowing the patient to regain some movement and function. Similarly, cognitive rehabilitation can help individuals with brain injuries or conditions like dementia rewire their brains to improve memory, attention, and problem-solving abilities. The brain's remarkable capacity for recovery demonstrates the incredible potential of neuroplasticity to heal both the mind and the body. Even in the absence of injury, neuroplasticity plays a vital role in emotional healing. People who have experienced trauma, stress, or anxiety can use neuroplasticity to reshape their responses to negative experiences. By engaging in practices such as mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, or meditation, individuals can rewire their brains to respond more calmly and positively to stressors. Over time, these new neural pathways can reduce anxiety, promote emotional resilience, and improve overall mental health. The role of mindset in neuroplasticity. Our mindset plays a significant role in how effectively we can harness the power of neuroplasticity. The way we think about ourselves, our abilities, and our potential directly influences the brain's ability to rewire itself. If we believe that change is possible and that we have the capacity to improve, we are more likely to engage in behaviors and practices that foster neuroplasticity. A growth mindset, the belief that our abilities can be developed through effort and learning, has been shown to enhance neuroplasticity. People with a growth mindset are more likely to embrace challenges, persist through setbacks, and adopt new strategies for solving problems. This mindset creates a fertile ground for neuroplasticity to flourish, as it encourages the brain to continually form new connections and strengthen existing ones. Conversely, a fixed mindset, the belief that our abilities are fixed and cannot be changed, can limit the brain's capacity for growth. When we believe that we are incapable of learning or improving, we are less likely to engage in activities that challenge us or push us outside our comfort zones. This can lead to stagnation in both our cognitive and emotional development. By cultivating a growth mindset and embracing the idea that we are capable of change, we can unlock the full potential of neuroplasticity and create lasting positive change in our lives. Practical ways to harness neuroplasticity. There are many ways we can actively promote neuroplasticity and take advantage of the brain's incredible ability to change. One key to harnessing neuroplasticity is through consistent practice. The more we engage in activities that challenge our brains, the more we strengthen and create new neural connections. Learning a new language, picking up a new hobby, or engaging in physical exercise are all excellent ways to stimulate the brain and encourage neuroplasticity. Mindfulness and meditation are also powerful tools for promoting neuroplasticity. These practices help us become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, allowing us to respond to them with greater clarity and calmness. Studies have shown that mindfulness can increase the thickness of the brain's prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. By practicing mindfulness regularly, we can improve our cognitive abilities and emotional well-being. Another way to encourage neuroplasticity is by challenging our brains with novel experiences. Whether it's traveling to a new place, meeting new people, or trying new activities, novelty stimulates the brain and encourages it to adapt. By stepping outside of our usual routines and embracing new experiences, we can create new neural pathways and enhance our cognitive flexibility. Finally, engaging in regular physical exercise is one of the most effective ways to promote neuroplasticity. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, which helps nourish brain cells and promotes the growth of new neurons. It also stimulates the release of neurotrophic factors, proteins that support the survival and growth of neurons, further enhancing the brain's ability to reorganize and adapt. Conclusion: the power of neuroplasticity is nothing short of remarkable. Our brains are not rigid or fixed. They are dynamic and capable of constant change. By understanding and harnessing the principles of neuroplasticity, we can reshape our thoughts, behaviors, and even our emotions. Whether we are learning a new skill, recovering from trauma, or simply looking to improve our mental and emotional well-being, neuroplasticity offers a powerful tool for growth and transformation. The brain is truly an incredible organ, and through intentional effort, we can tap into its potential to change who we are and how we experience the world. The science of intuition. Can we really trust our gut? We've all had that moment, standing at a crossroads in life, facing a decision, and suddenly feeling a deep, almost inexplicable sense of knowing what to do. It's not a clear logical conclusion. It's not something we can explain with words or reasons. Yet we just know. This feeling is often described as our gut instinct or intuition. But what is intuition really, and can we trust it? Intuition is often seen as a mysterious, almost mystical phenomenon, something that seems to come from beyond our conscious awareness. It's that quiet, internal voice that whispers to us in times of uncertainty, guiding us toward choices that feel deeply right, even when we can't fully explain why. But beneath this intuitive sense, there is fascinating science at work. Neuroscientists and psychologists have been exploring the nature of intuition for years, uncovering the mechanisms that allow us to make decisions in the blink of an eye, sometimes with remarkable accuracy. The brain's hidden wisdom. Intuition is rooted in the brain's remarkable ability to process vast amounts of information in the background without our conscious awareness. When we face a situation, especially one we've encountered before, our brain draws on past experiences and knowledge to make rapid assessments. This process happens so quickly that it bypasses our rational, analytical thinking and surfaces as a gut feeling. This unconscious processing happens in the brain's vast network of neurons, which work together to form neural pathways that store memories, experiences, and patterns. The brain is constantly learning, even when we aren't consciously aware of it. Over time, these neural pathways become finely tuned, allowing us to recognize familiar patterns in the world around us. When we face a decision, these patterns trigger a response that we experience as intuition. It's like the brain is giving us a shortcut, a way to access all of its accumulated knowledge without needing to consciously sift through every detail. This ability to make quick judgments based on past experiences is known as expert intuition. It's a phenomenon often seen in people who have spent years honing their skills in a particular field, such as doctors, musicians, or athletes. A seasoned doctor, for example, might be able to make a quick diagnosis based on a subtle symptom that they've encountered countless times before, even if they can't fully articulate why they think it's the right diagnosis. In these cases, intuition is not just a gut feeling, it's the result of years of practice and accumulated knowledge. The role of the body in intuition. Intuition is often associated with a physical sensation in the body, particularly in the stomach. We've all heard the phrase trust your gut, and for good reason. The gut, also known as the second brain, is intimately connected to the brain through the vagus nerve, which runs from the brainstem to the abdomen. This nerve acts as a two-way communication system, sending signals between the brain and the gut. It's why we often feel that sense of unease or butterflies in our stomachs when we're faced with uncertainty or a difficult decision. The gut is also home to the enteric nervous system, ENS, which contains more neurons than the spinal cord. This system is capable of functioning independently of the brain, allowing it to process information and send signals to the brain. The ENS has been found to play a role in regulating emotions and decision-making. Some researchers believe that the sensations we feel in our gut during moments of intuition are actually the result of the gut's ability to process information and communicate it to the brain. In other words, the gut feeling we experience may be the body's way of alerting us to important information that we might not be consciously aware of. The science behind intuition, can we trust it? While intuition can feel deeply personal and mysterious, research suggests that it is often more reliable than we might think. Studies have shown that intuition can be especially accurate in the situations where we have a significant amount of experience or expertise. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, the brain uses past knowledge and patterns to make judgments quickly and efficiently. The more experience we have in a given area, the more refined our intuitive responses become. However, intuition isn't infallible. It's important to acknowledge that our gut feelings can sometimes be influenced by biases, emotions, and external factors that cloud our judgment. For example, when we are under stress, our brain may misinterpret information, leading to intuitive responses that are not entirely accurate. Fear or anxiety can distort our perception, making us more likely to overestimate threats or make rash decisions. How your mind creates stories. The narrative self. Every day we live in a world of stories. These stories shape how we understand the world, how we interpret the events of our lives, and even how we define ourselves. Our minds constantly processing experiences, weave together threads of information, emotions, and memories to create coherent narratives. We are, each of us, the protagonist of our own story, but perhaps more importantly, we are also the authors of it. The human capacity for storytelling is one of our most unique and profound traits. From ancient myths and fairy tales to the movies we watch and the books we read, storytelling is an integral part of our culture. But what is often overlooked is that we don't just tell stories about the world around us, we create stories about ourselves. This process, known as the narrative self, is central to understanding who we are, how we see ourselves, and how we relate to the world. The narrative self, constructing identity. The idea of the narrative self was first popularized by the philosopher Paul Ricoeur, who proposed that we understand our lives and identities through the stories we tell about ourselves. Our minds, constantly at work, organize the myriad experiences and events of our lives into a coherent narrative, giving us a sense of continuity and meaning. We are not just a collection of individual moments or experiences, but rather a narrative thread that connects past, present, and future. Every memory, every experience is a piece of this larger narrative puzzle. Our minds take these fragmented moments and place them in a larger context, helping us to make sense of who we are and where we've been. It's as though we are editing and refining our personal story all the time, adjusting the plot line as we grow, change, and learn. The process of constructing the self through narrative allows us to maintain a sense of identity even as we encounter new challenges and experiences. For instance, think about a difficult or traumatic event in your life. In the moment, it might seem like a random and chaotic experience, something that doesn't fit with the rest of your life. But over time, your mind may begin to reframe that event, weaving it into the larger narrative of your life. Perhaps it becomes a story of resilience or personal growth, or perhaps it becomes part of a larger narrative about overcoming adversity. This reshaping of our past experiences is a natural part of how we maintain our sense of self, and it helps us navigate the ever-changing nature of our lives. Memory and the construction of the self. Memory is key to the creation of our personal narrative. Every time we remember an event, we don't just recall an objective truth. Instead, our minds reconstruct the memory, adding context, emotions, and interpretations that help us understand the meaning of that experience. This is why two people can experience the same event and yet come away with very different stories about it. For example, consider a childhood memory, perhaps a trip to the beach with family. For one person, the memory might be full of joy, laughter, and the warmth of family connection. For another, the same trip could be remembered with feelings of anxiety, isolation, or conflict. The way we remember our experiences is deeply influenced by our emotional state, current beliefs, and life circumstances. Our mind doesn't just capture events, it actively constructs a story that helps us make sense of those events in the context of who we are and what we believe. This process of memory construction is not always reliable. Our memories are malleable, influenced by time, perspective, and even outside influences. Sometimes we may misremember details or shape our memories to fit a particular narrative about ourselves. For instance, a person who sees themselves as a victim may reinterpret past events to reinforce that narrative, while someone who identifies with strength and resilience might reframe those same events to highlight their personal growth. This is part of the mind's natural tendency to create a coherent and meaningful narrative, even if that story is not entirely accurate. The role of emotions in our stories. Emotions play a critical role in how we construct our personal narratives. The experiences that are most emotionally charged, whether they are moments of joy, sadness, fear, or anger, tend to be the ones that stick with us the longest. These emotions act as markers in our minds, signaling to us that something important has occurred. When we think about these emotionally significant moments, our brains often process them through the lens of our emotions. For example, an event that causes a great deal of pain or sadness may later be interpreted as a defining moment in our lives, one that shapes who we are and how we see the world. The emotions tied to that experience will infuse the story we tell about it, giving it depth, meaning, and significance. Additionally, intuition can be shaped by cognitive biases, which are inherent flaws in human thinking that affect our decision-making. Confirmation bias, for instance, causes us to seek out information that supports our existing beliefs and ignore information that contradicts them. This bias can influence the way our brains process intuitive insights, leading us to favor certain gut feelings over others. Similarly, the availability heuristic causes us to make judgments based on the information that is most readily available to us, rather than considering the full range of possibilities. These biases can lead us to trust our gut feelings when, in fact, they might not be entirely accurate. Despite these limitations, research suggests that intuition can be highly effective when it comes to making decisions in familiar, low-stakes situations. The key is to recognize when our intuition is based on experience and knowledge, and when it might be influenced by emotions or biases. This is why it's often recommended to take a moment to pause and reflect before acting on a gut feeling, especially when the stakes are high. Intuition and decision-making. When to listen and when to doubt. While intuition can be a valuable tool in decision-making, it's important to strike a balance between trusting your gut and engaging in thoughtful, rational analysis. In certain situations, especially when faced with complex decisions or unfamiliar circumstances, it's essential to gather as much information as possible and think critically before acting. In these cases, Intuition might not have all the answers, and a more logical, deliberate approach is necessary. However, in situations where we have a deep well of experience or a strong sense of familiarity, intuition can be remarkably effective. Experts often rely on intuition to make quick decisions in high-pressure situations, such as a firefighter deciding the best course of action during an emergency or a chess grandmaster choosing their next move. In these cases, the brain has processed countless patterns over time, allowing the intuitive response to be both fast and accurate. The trick is to know when to trust your gut and when to pause and evaluate. If you feel a strong sense of certainty about a decision, it can be helpful to take a moment to reflect on why you feel that way. Is it based on past experience? Do you have any supporting evidence to back up your intuition? Alternatively, if your gut feeling is accompanied by doubt or anxiety, it might be worth taking more time to gather information and consider other perspectives. The power of intuition in everyday life. While intuition is often associated with high-stakes decision-making or professional expertise, it also plays a significant role in our daily lives. From choosing a meal at a restaurant to deciding on the right path in a personal relationship, our gut feelings help guide us through a wide range of choices. Intuition can help us navigate social interactions, recognize when something feels off, or choose opportunities that align with our values and desires. Listening to our intuition can also contribute to our emotional well-being. By trusting our inner guidance, we can become more attuned to our needs and desires, making decisions that support our growth and happiness. In this sense, intuition serves as a powerful tool for self-awareness, helping us to better understand ourselves and our place in the world. Conclusion. Intuition is a remarkable and powerful part of the human experience. While it may seem mysterious, the science behind intuition reveals that it is rooted in the brain's ability to process information quickly and efficiently, drawing on past experiences and patterns. The gut feeling we often experience is not just a random hunch. It is the brain's way of guiding us based on years of accumulated knowledge. While intuition can be highly accurate, it is not infallible. By becoming aware of our biases and emotions, we can learn to discern when to trust our gut and when to pause and reflect. In the end, intuition offers us a profound connection to our inner wisdom, guiding us through the complex decisions of life with grace and insight. Why the brain loves patterns. The science of predictability. Our world is full of unpredictability, twists of fate, sudden changes, and unexpected events. Yet despite the chaos, there's something incredibly soothing about patterns. From the rhythmic beat of a song to the structure of a well-crafted story, our brains are drawn to predictability. We find comfort in repetition, security in the familiar, and clarity in things that follow a predictable course. This attraction to patterns is not just a quirk of human nature. It is deeply embedded in the very structure of our brains. The brain's love of patterns is not only a source of comfort, but a fundamental way it processes and interprets the world. In fact, it is this ability to recognize, create, and respond to patterns that allows us to make sense of our environment and predict what will happen next. But why exactly does the brain gravitate toward patterns? And what does it mean for how we understand ourselves and the world around us? The brain's need for predictability. To understand why the brain is so drawn to patterns, it helps to think of the brain as a prediction machine. At its core, the brain is constantly making predictions about what will happen next. Based on previous experiences, sensory input, and environmental cues. This constant process of prediction and feedback allows us to navigate the world with greater efficiency. When we predict correctly, it feels satisfying. When we predict incorrectly, our brains register this as a surprise, which typically triggers a corrective response. Predictability provides a sense of control. In a world that is often chaotic, patterns offer the brain a way to reduce uncertainty. When we encounter a pattern, whether it's a familiar rhythm in music, a predictable event in a story, or even the repeated motions of a dance, our brain knows what to expect. This reduces the mental load required to process information and frees up cognitive resources to focus on other tasks. For example, when we hear a song with a repetitive melody, we don't have to consciously analyze each note. Instead, we anticipate what's coming next, allowing us to relax into the experience. Pattern recognition, the brain's superpower. Pattern recognition is one of the brain's most powerful abilities. It allows us to identify recurring sequences, structures, and regularities in our environment. This skill has evolutionary roots, serving as a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors detect potential dangers or opportunities. For early humans, being able to recognize patterns in the environment, such as the migration patterns of animals or the changing of the seasons, was crucial for survival. In modern life, pattern recognition continues to play a vital role. From reading a book to driving a car, we rely on patterns to guide our actions. When we read, for example, our brains don't process each individual letter. Instead, we recognize word patterns and sentences, enabling us to read quickly and efficiently. Similarly, when we drive, we don't consciously track every car and road sign. Instead, our brain has learned the patterns of traffic flow, allowing us to react quickly and make decisions with minimal effort. The brain is constantly scanning the world for patterns, and this is true not only for external events, but also for internal processes. We recognize patterns in our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, often without even realizing it. For instance, if we notice that a particular thought or behavior leads to a positive outcome, our brain reinforces that pattern, making it more likely we will repeat it in the future. This ability to learn from patterns allows us to adapt to our environment and improve our chances of success. The pleasure of predictability. There is a deep sense of pleasure associated with predictability. This is particularly evident in the way we engage with art, music, and stories. In music, for example, we derive pleasure from hearing familiar chord progressions or rhythmic patterns. Our brains anticipate these patterns, and when they are fulfilled, we experience a sense of satisfaction. Conversely, when a song takes an unexpected turn, such as a surprising chord or an offbeat rhythm, it can create tension, which can be just as enjoyable as long as the resolution follows. The same principle applies to storytelling. When we read a book or watch a movie, we engage with the unfolding plot, anticipating what will happen next. A good story often follows a predictable structure, such as the classic rise and fall arc or the hero's journey. This predictability draws us in as we seek to understand the character's motivations, the outcome of their struggles, and the resolution of the plot. However, a good storyteller also knows how to introduce elements of surprise, twisting the narrative in unexpected ways. The key is balance, predictability combined with the occasional deviation, which creates a sense of tension and resolution. This pleasure derived from patterns is not limited to the arts. Everyday life, too, is filled with moments where predictability brings comfort. From the rhythm of a morning routine to the regularity of a favorite television show, we find reassurance in the familiar. Patterns give our lives structure, making the world feel more predictable and safe. In a time when much of life feels uncertain, having certain predictable elements can provide us with much-needed stability. The brain's bias toward patterns, the good and the bad. While the brain's love of patterns is essential for making sense of the world, it can also have its drawbacks. One of the most interesting features of pattern recognition is the brain's tendency to see patterns even when they don't exist. This phenomenon, known as apophenia, is our brain's tendency to perceive connections between unrelated events or objects. The classic example is seeing faces in clouds or finding patterns in random data. This inclination to find patterns, even in randomness, is deeply ingrained. It may have evolved as an adaptive trait, helping early humans to detect potential threats, such as a predator hiding in the bushes. However, in modern life, this bias can sometimes lead us astray. For example, people may perceive trends in financial markets where none exist, or they may draw incorrect conclusions about cause and effect based on faulty patterns. Superstitions and conspiracy theories often arise from this tendency to see patterns that aren't really there. The brain's preference for patterns also contributes to cognitive biases. We tend to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs or patterns of thought, a phenomenon known as confirmation bias. This can lead us to disregard information that contradicts our pre-existing views and reinforce the patterns we are comfortable with. In social contexts, we may develop stereotypes or make snap judgments based on the patterns we perceive in certain groups of people, even if those patterns are not accurate or fair. The healing power of patterns. Despite these potential pitfalls, the brain's love of patterns can also have therapeutic benefits. This is especially evident in practices like meditation and mindfulness. These practices often involve focusing on a repetitive activity, such as breathing, chanting, or walking, which creates a calming, predictable rhythm for the mind. In fact, rhythmic patterns are known to have a soothing effect on the brain, helping to reduce stress and anxiety. The brain, in its quest for predictability, finds peace in these steady, repetitive actions, allowing it to relax and enter a state of balance. In therapy, establishing healthy patterns, whether through cognitive behavioral techniques, routine exercises, or new habits, can also promote healing and personal growth. By creating new positive patterns of thinking and behavior, individuals can rewire their brains to respond more effectively to challenges and stressors. This process of pattern creation is key to overcoming negative cycles and fostering resilience. Conclusion: the brain's love of patterns is both a gift and a challenge. It allows us to navigate the world with efficiency, find meaning in our experiences, and derive pleasure from the predictable. Yet it can also lead us to see false connections, reinforce biases, and misunderstand randomness. Understanding the science behind how our brains process and respond to patterns gives us insight into how we perceive the world, make decisions, and experience emotions. At the heart of it all, the brain's attraction to predictability is a testament to its remarkable ability to bring order to chaos, to create meaning from experience, and to guide us through the ever-changing landscape of life. Whether through music, storytelling, or daily routines, our brains thrive on patterns, finding comfort, joy, and security in the predictable rhythms of existence. And while the world around us may be full of surprises, the brain will continue to seek out and cherish the patterns that help us make sense of it all. The Mandela Effect. How false memories shape our reality. Have you ever been certain about a specific event or detail only to discover that it never actually happened the way you remembered it? Or perhaps you found yourself in a conversation where everyone is in agreement about a certain piece of trivia, only for it to be completely false. This strange phenomenon, where a large group of people shares a collective memory of something that never occurred, is known as the Mandela Effect. It's a curious quirk of the human mind, one that challenges our perceptions of memory, reality, and how we understand the world around us. The Mandela Effect gets its name from a surprising and seemingly trivial fact. In 2010, many people believed that former South African President Nelson Mandela had died while imprisoned in the 1980s. Despite historical records proving that Mandela was alive and released in 1990, thousands of individuals insisted they had vivid memories of hearing about his death decades earlier. This shared false memory led to widespread speculation about the nature of the phenomenon, coining the term Mandela Effect. But what exactly is happening when we experience these false memories? How is it possible for so many people to remember something incorrectly, yet so confidently? And why do these errors in memory feel so real? To understand the Mandela Effect, we need to explore the fascinating science of memory, perception, and the brain's ability to create our reality. The nature of memory, a constructive process. Memory is not a perfect recorder of events. It is, in fact, a highly malleable and reconstructive process. Every time we recall a memory, our brains do not simply replay a perfect recording of what happened. Instead, we retrieve fragments of information and reconstruct the memory, often filling in the gaps with additional details, emotions, and interpretations. This process is influenced by a variety of factors, including our existing knowledge, beliefs, and emotions at the time of recall. Because of this reconstructive nature, memories are vulnerable to distortion. Sometimes we inadvertently alter details or create entirely false memories based on new information or suggestions from others. The Mandela Effect takes this concept a step further, showing how false memories can not only be personal, but also collective. In some cases, entire groups of people can share a specific false memory, convinced of its accuracy despite contradictory evidence. One reason for this is that memory is often influenced by external sources. In our connected world, we are exposed to vast amounts of information every day. This information, whether through media, social interactions, or popular culture, can shape how we remember things. For example, if someone suggests that a popular logo or brand was once different than it is today, we might start to believe that we remember it that way too. Our brains, in an effort to make sense of the world, may fill in missing details, creating a false memory that aligns with the suggestion. Over time, this misremembered detail can become ingrained, leading us to confidently assert it as fact. The role of social reinforcement. The Mandela effect is often amplified by social reinforcement. When people share a memory of an event that didn't actually happen, it can feel incredibly convincing. If enough individuals agree on a specific detail, others may begin to question their own recollections, wondering if their version of events is wrong. This social validation creates a sense of collective reality. Everyone is experiencing the same false memory, so it must be true. Consider the example of the famous line from the movie Star Wars. Many people recall Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." In reality, the actual line is, "No, I am your father." Despite this, the misquote has become entrenched in popular culture, and countless individuals recall hearing it in the original film. Over time, the incorrect version of the quote has been perpetuated through parodies, references, and retellings, reinforcing the collective memory of the false version. The power of social reinforcement, coupled with the brain's tendency to seek consistency, creates a potent feedback loop, solidifying the false memory in the minds of many. This collective reinforcement can happen in subtle ways. Think about how a song lyric might be misheard by one person and then shared with others. As more people repeat the incorrect lyric, it becomes a common memory of the song, even though the original lyric remains different. This process illustrates how shared experiences, even if based on false information, can shape our collective understanding of reality. Cognitive biases and the Mandela effect. Cognitive biases play a significant role in shaping the Mandela effect. One such bias is confirmation bias, where people tend to favor information that supports their existing beliefs or memories, while disregarding contradictory evidence. When individuals encounter a memory or piece of information that fits with their personal recollections, they are more likely to accept it as true, reinforcing their false belief. This bias contributes to the spread of the Mandela effect by encouraging people to hold on to incorrect memories despite evidence to the contrary. Another cognitive bias at play is misinformation effect, which occurs when our memories are influenced by external information that is inaccurate. This can happen when someone tells us a version of an event that differs from our own recollection, causing us to revise our memory to fit with the new information. The more frequently we are exposed to incorrect details, the more likely we are to accept them as part of our memory, creating false recollections. This is especially true when the misinformation comes from a trusted source or is repeated frequently enough to become ingrained. Our brains are wired to create meaning and coherence out of the world around us, and when we encounter discrepancies in our memories, we often resolve them by modifying the details to fit a more harmonious narrative. This desire for consistency can lead us to believe that our version of events is accurate, even in the face of evidence that says otherwise. The Mandela Effect in popular culture. The Mandela Effect has gained widespread attention due to the prevalence of shared false memories in popular culture. Many of these memories are tied to iconic moments in television, movies, and brands, which are deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness. Take, for example, the famous children's book series, The Berenstain Bears. Many people swear that the name of the series was once spelled Berenstain Bears, with an E, but the actual spelling has always been Berenstain Bears, with an A. This discrepancy has led to widespread confusion and speculation, with many individuals convinced that the name was changed at some point. Similarly, some people recall the Monopoly man having a monocle, even though he has never had one. Others remember the famous painting, The Last Supper, having a cup or chalice on the table, even though the original artwork does not depict one. These widely shared false memories often become topics of discussion, with people passionately debating what they remember versus what history records. The Mandela Effect has become a cultural phenomenon, highlighting the ways in which our memories can be shaped and distorted by the passage of time, social interactions, and mass media. The science behind false memories. False memories are a fascinating area of psychological research, and the Mandela Effect offers a unique glimpse into the mechanics of memory formation. Studies have shown that false memories can be created through a variety of techniques, including suggestion, social influence, and the introduction of misleading information. In fact, researchers have demonstrated that individuals can be led to remember events that never occurred through simple suggestions, highlighting the malleability of the mind. One such study, conducted by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus, showed how easily memories can be manipulated. Participants were shown a series of images and then asked to recall details about them. Some participants were later given misleading information, such as being told that they had seen a particular detail that wasn't actually in the images. Despite the fact that the detail was false, many participants later remembered seeing it, illustrating how external suggestions can alter our memories. The brain's tendency to create false memories is not necessarily a flaw. It's simply a result of how the brain processes and stores information. Our memories are not static records, but dynamic constructions, shaped by both internal and external influences. The Mandela Effect serves as a reminder of the brain's remarkable ability to adapt, fill in gaps, and create meaning, even when the details are not entirely accurate. Conclusion: the power of perception. The Mandela Effect is a compelling reminder of the brain's remarkable ability to construct our understanding of reality. Our memories are not passive recordings of events, but active creations that can be influenced by many factors: suggestions, social reinforcement, cognitive biases, and even the sheer power of repetition. As we navigate our lives, we often rely on these reconstructed memories to make sense of the world around us, trusting that our perceptions are accurate. The spotlight effect. Why we think everyone is watching us. Have you ever felt like all eyes are on you, even in the most mundane situations? Maybe you made an offhand comment at a meeting, tripped while walking down the street, or wore something that felt just a little out of the ordinary. In those moments, it can feel like the entire world is scrutinizing your every move, as though you're standing under a literal spotlight, the center of attention. But is that really the case? More often than not, the answer is no. The spotlight effect is the psychological phenomenon that makes us believe that others are paying far more attention to us than they actually are. It's a feeling that almost everyone has experienced at some point in their lives. The sense that we're constantly being watched, judged, or evaluated. This feeling can be so powerful that it shapes the way we behave, think, and interact with others. But why does this happen? Why do we assume that people are hyper-focused on us when, In reality, they are usually more preoccupied with their own lives. The spotlight effect, a cognitive bias. At its core, the spotlight effect is a cognitive bias. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts that our brains use to process information quickly. While these shortcuts are generally helpful in everyday life, they can sometimes lead us to inaccurate conclusions or judgments. The spotlight effect occurs when we overestimate the extent to which others are paying attention to us, focusing too much on our own actions, appearance, or mistakes, and underestimating the degree to which people are absorbed in their own concerns. This bias is rooted in the way our brains process social information. We are social creatures, constantly interacting with others and trying to understand how we are perceived. As we navigate through our relationships and environments, we are naturally inclined to be self-aware, assessing how our words, actions, and appearances might be perceived by those around us. While this self-awareness is important for social functioning, it can sometimes become overwhelming. We begin to believe that every small detail about ourselves is under intense scrutiny, when in reality, the vast majority of people are focused on their own thoughts and concerns. Why do we think people are watching us? To understand why we experience the spotlight effect, it's helpful to consider the role of social comparison in human behavior. Social comparison theory suggests that we have an inherent drive to compare ourselves to others in order to understand how we measure up. This comparison is a normal and natural part of human life. It helps us gauge our social standing, improve our performance, and learn from those around us. However, it can also lead to feelings of self-consciousness and anxiety. When we feel self-conscious, our minds naturally magnify our perceived flaws and missteps, making us think that everyone else is noticing them as well. This is where the spotlight effect comes into play. Because we are hyper-focused on ourselves, we assume that others are equally focused on us. We might worry about our appearance, our behavior, or even the way we speak, believing that others are scrutinizing every detail. But the reality is that people are often far less concerned with us than we think. In fact, they are usually much more preoccupied with their own thoughts, insecurities, and experiences. The role of self-consciousness. The spotlight effect is closely tied to self-consciousness, a trait that is both common and essential to human nature. Self-consciousness involves being acutely aware of oneself in social situations, and while it can help us navigate our social world, it can also lead to feelings of anxiety or insecurity. People who are particularly self-conscious may experience the spotlight effect more intensely, believing that every small mistake or imperfection is being noticed and judged by others. This heightened sense of self-awareness is a product of our evolutionary history. As social beings, we are wired to care about how others perceive us. Throughout our evolutionary past, fitting in with a group, forming alliances, and avoiding social rejection were all crucial for survival. As a result, our brains developed a heightened sensitivity to social cues and evaluations. This sensitivity helped our ancestors navigate complex social landscapes, but it also means that we are more likely to feel exposed or vulnerable in social situations. In today's world, this natural inclination towards self-awareness can sometimes lead to an exaggerated sense of being observed. We might worry about making a bad impression, being judged for our actions, or feeling like an outsider. However, the truth is that most people are far more focused on themselves than on us. They are dealing with their own thoughts, struggles, and worries just as we are. The spotlight effect is a product of our own minds, inflating our sense of self-importance and making us feel like we are the center of attention, when in fact, we are just another person in a world full of individuals with their own concerns. Social media and the amplification of the spotlight effect. In the age of social media, the spotlight effect has become more pronounced than ever. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter give us the ability to broadcast our lives to a wide audience, often leading to a sense of constant visibility. While these platforms can help us connect with others, they can also amplify feelings of being under a spotlight as we constantly share our experiences, thoughts, and images with others. On social media, the pressure to present a perfect, curated image can intensify the spotlight effect. We may obsess over the way we look in photos, the way we come across in posts, or the reactions we receive from our followers. This can create a heightened sense of self-consciousness as we feel like we are constantly being evaluated by others. In reality, most people are focused on their own posts and experiences rather than scrutinizing ours. Yet the constant exposure to other people's highlight reels can lead us to believe that we are under constant observation and judgment. The act of posting something online can also create a sense of permanence, as if our actions are being recorded for everyone to see and remember. This can lead to an increased fear of making mistakes or looking foolish, as we worry that our social media footprint will be forever tied to our identity. In reality, people's attention spans are shorter than we think, and most social media users are more focused on creating their own content than on analyzing others. The impact of the spotlight effect on our lives. The spotlight effect can have a significant impact on our daily lives, influencing our behavior, self-esteem, and decision-making. When we feel like we are being watched or judged, we may become more self-conscious and less likely to take risks or put ourselves out there. For example, we might avoid speaking up in a meeting, trying something new, or even wearing an outfit that we feel is too bold because we fear that others will judge us. However, the spotlight effect can also be a source of motivation. In some cases, the feeling of being observed can push us to perform better, whether it's in a presentation, a social situation, or a creative endeavor. Knowing that others may be paying attention can inspire us to put our best foot forward and strive for excellence. The key is to recognize that the perception of being under a spotlight doesn't necessarily mean that we are actually being evaluated in the way we think we are. Instead of fearing judgment, we can learn to embrace the freedom that comes with realizing that most people are too focused on their own lives to scrutinize ours. Overcoming the spotlight effect. The first step in overcoming the spotlight effect is recognizing it for what it is: a cognitive bias that exaggerates our sense of being observed. Once we acknowledge that most people are not as focused on us as we think, we can begin to let go of the pressure to perform or behave perfectly in social situations. Practicing self-compassion and understanding that everyone has their own insecurities can help alleviate the anxiety that comes with the spotlight effect. Another helpful strategy is mindfulness. By staying present in the moment and focusing on the task at hand, rather than worrying about how we are being perceived, we can reduce the impact of the spotlight effect. Shifting our focus away from ourselves and toward others can also help. When we take the time to truly listen to others, engage in conversations, and form genuine connections, we become less preoccupied with our own actions and more immersed in the world around us. Finally, embracing vulnerability can be a powerful antidote to the spotlight effect. By allowing ourselves to be imperfect and embracing the idea that it's okay to make mistakes, we can free ourselves from the constant pressure to be flawless. When we accept that no one is watching as closely as we think, we can live more authentically, take more risks, and enjoy the beauty of human connection without the fear of being judged. Conclusion: the spotlight effect is a reminder of the power of perception in shaping our reality. It highlights the ways in which we can become overly self-conscious and inflate our sense of being observed. However, by understanding the cognitive biases at play, practicing mindfulness, and embracing vulnerability, we can learn to move beyond the feeling of being under a spotlight. Ultimately, when we recognize that most people are more focused on their own lives than on ours, we can embrace life with greater freedom, confidence, and authenticity, knowing that the spotlight is not as bright or as all-encompassing as we might think. Why time feels faster as we get older. Time. It's an invisible force that governs everything in our lives, shaping our experiences, our memories, and even our perceptions of the world. From the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep, it's constantly ticking away, often unnoticed. But have you ever stopped to wonder why, as we get older, time seems to slip through our fingers faster than ever before? The days turn into weeks, the months into years, and suddenly we find ourselves reflecting on the swift passage of time. What causes this curious sensation that time feels like it's accelerating as we age? The answer lies in both psychology and the way our brains process the passage of time. The perception of time. A personal experience. Time is a curious thing. It's a constant, unchanging force, yet our perception of it can vary dramatically depending on our age, experiences, and even our emotional state. When we're young, time seems to stretch endlessly before us. A year feels like an eternity. A summer vacation stretches into infinity, and a single day can seem like it lasts forever. But as we grow older, something shifts. The years seem to pass in the blink of an eye. Weeks turn into months, and before we know it, decades have gone by. This phenomenon, where time feels faster the older we get, is not just a fleeting sensation. It's a well-documented psychological effect. The question is, why does this happen? The role of novelty and routine. One of the key factors in the perception of time is the amount of novelty in our lives. When we're young, we're constantly encountering new experiences, new people, new places, new ideas. These novel experiences require more attention, and our brains work harder to process them. As a result, they seem to stretch out time. A trip to the zoo, learning to ride a bike, or even the first day of school can feel like significant, memorable events because they're new and unique. The brain records these moments in vivid detail, making them feel more substantial in the context of our lives. As we get older, however, life becomes more predictable. We settle into routines, and many of our experiences start to feel familiar. The excitement of novelty fades, and we find ourselves repeating the same patterns day after day. Our jobs, our relationships, even our hobbies, while still meaningful, become part of a regular rhythm that doesn't require as much conscious processing. When our brains don't need to devote as much attention to an experience, it seems to pass more quickly. It's as if the brain is on autopilot, making familiar experiences feel shorter and less impactful. Even if they're occurring over long periods of time, the more routine our lives become, the more time seems to slip away unnoticed. This is why time often feels like it's speeding up as we get older. It's not that time itself is actually moving faster. It's that we're experiencing fewer novel events that can slow down our perception of it. The proportional theory of time. Another interesting explanation for why time seems to pass more quickly as we age lies in the proportional theory of time. When you're 5 years old, a year is 20% of your life. That's a significant chunk of time. But when you're 50, a year is only 2% of your life. As we accumulate more years, each additional year represents a smaller portion of the total time we've already experienced, making it feel like time is passing more quickly. The older we get, the less significant each individual year feels, and the faster the years seem to fly by. This effect is compounded by the fact that, as adults, we tend to be busier. We often have more responsibilities, obligations, and commitments, leaving less time for reflection and mindful awareness of the passing days. Our time becomes filled with routine tasks, and the sense of urgency or pressure to accomplish things further accelerates our perception of time. The impact of memory on time. Perception memory also plays a crucial role in how we perceive the passage of time. As we age, our brains become more efficient at processing routine information. While this is beneficial in many ways, it can also lead to the feeling that time is passing too quickly. When we're young, every new experience is carefully encoded into memory, giving us a rich bank of vivid memories to look back on. These memories act as markers, helping us to mentally slow down the passage of time. A memorable vacation, an exciting milestone, or even an emotional experience can create mental anchors that make time feel like it was experienced in great detail. As we grow older, however, many of our daily experiences become less distinct in our memories. Our lives may blend together, with fewer standout events to mark the passage of time. When we don't have distinct memories to anchor us, time seems to slip by more easily. This is why, when we look back on long periods of our lives, such as a decade or more, it can sometimes feel like those years were compressed into a single fleeting moment. Our brain's natural tendency to prioritize efficiency means that it often glosses over routine events, making the years feel less substantial in hindsight. The more monotonous or predictable an experience, the less likely it is to be remembered with the same vividness as something new or unique. In this way, our memory system is aligned with the passage of time, further amplifying the feeling that time speeds up as we age. The role of technology and modern life. Modern technology and the fast-paced nature of contemporary life have also contributed to the sensation that time is moving faster. The advent of smartphones, constant connectivity, and the bombardment of information has made us more distracted than ever. We are constantly being pulled in different directions, jumping from one task to the next without taking the time to fully appreciate the present moment. This rapid-fire pace of life can distort our perception of time, making it feel like it's speeding by. In the past, many of us lived more slowly, taking time to engage with the world around us, reflect on our experiences, and savor moments of stillness. But in today's hyper-connected world, there is always something to do, always something to check, and always something pulling us away from the present moment. This constant activity and the pervasive sense of being on the go make it harder to slow down and experience time in a mindful, present way. The more distracted we are, the faster time seems to pass. The emotional connection to time. Finally, emotions play an important role in how we perceive time. Positive, exciting experiences tend to make time feel like it's moving slower because we are more fully immersed in the present moment. On the other hand, negative emotions such as stress, anxiety, or boredom can make time feel like it's dragging on. As we age, we often accumulate more responsibilities, more stress, and more complex emotions. These emotions, particularly negative ones, can contribute to the feeling that time is slipping away faster. When we are under pressure or feeling overwhelmed, we may be so focused on the future or on getting through the next task that we fail to truly experience the present. This emotional disconnect from the present moment makes time feel more fleeting. Finding balance. Embracing the present moment. So while it's clear that time may feel faster as we age due to the combination of routine, memory, perception, and emotional factors, it's also worth remembering that we have the power to slow it down. By introducing more novelty into our lives, whether through travel, new hobbies, learning, or simply embracing a more mindful approach to our daily activities, we can break the cycle of routine that makes time feel like it's passing too quickly. By making the effort to appreciate the present moment, we can create more vivid memories and create a sense of richness in our lives, which in turn helps to slow the perception of time. Taking time for reflection, engaging in meaningful relationships, and focusing on the things that truly matter can all help us slow down and savor the experiences that make life worth living. Time may pass quickly, but it's up to us to ensure that we make the most of every moment. Conclusion. The feeling that time moves faster as we age is a universal experience, shaped by a combination of cognitive processes, memory, routine, and emotional states. As we grow older, life tends to become more predictable, and we become more efficient at processing routine events. This efficiency, combined with the proportional nature of time and the distractions of modern life, makes time feel like it's accelerating. However, by introducing novelty into our lives, practicing mindfulness, and taking time to savor the present moment, we can slow down our perception of time and make the most of the years we have. After all, time may be fleeting, but the memories and experiences we create are what truly make it meaningful. How the brain fills in missing information. Without you noticing, our brains are remarkable organs, constantly processing and interpreting vast amounts of information every second. It takes in sensory data from the world around us, sights, sounds, smells, and more, and creates a coherent representation of reality. But what happens when the brain doesn't have all the information it needs to make sense of a situation? How does it handle the gaps in our perception? The brain is not content to leave blanks, and it fills in missing information without us even noticing. This process, which we often take for granted, is a testament to the brain's power to create a seamless experience of the world, even when the details are lacking. The brain's desire for coherence. The human brain has a fundamental drive to make sense of the world. It is constantly seeking patterns, organizing information, and creating connections between different pieces of data. This desire for coherence is an evolutionary trait that helped our ancestors survive by allowing them to navigate the world more efficiently. The brain is wired to interpret incomplete or ambiguous information in a way that makes the most sense, even if that means filling in missing details. In our day-to-day lives, we're rarely aware of the brain's ability to fill in gaps in our perception. Whether we're reading a book, having a conversation, or simply walking down the street, the brain is constantly piecing together fragmented bits of information to create a unified experience. We see a partial image, hear an incomplete sound, or observe a blurry scene, and yet the brain fills in the gaps to complete the picture in a way that feels natural and seamless. The power of context. One of the primary tools the brain uses to fill in missing information is context. Our brains rely heavily on prior knowledge and expectations to make sense of what we're experiencing. For example, when we read a sentence with a missing word, our brain doesn't hesitate to predict what the missing word might be based on the surrounding context. This ability to infer information from the context helps us process information quickly and efficiently without needing to consciously focus on every detail. Imagine reading a sentence like, "The cat jumped over the kak." Without thinking, your brain will likely fill in the blank with fence or moon, depending on the context of the sentence. If the sentence is about a farmyard scene, you might picture a wooden fence. If it's about a whimsical adventure, your mind might playfully imagine the cat jumping over the moon. Your brain uses its knowledge of the world to make a prediction that feels natural, even though it doesn't have the precise information. This ability to make educated guesses based on context is part of what allows us to make sense of the world so effortlessly. Optical illusions and the brain's interpretation. Optical illusions are another fascinating example of how the brain fills in missing information. These visual tricks exploit the brain's tendency to make assumptions based on patterns, leading it to interpret ambiguous images in unexpected ways. For instance, when you look at a picture with an optical illusion, the brain may perceive movement, depth, or shapes that aren't actually present. The brain fills in the missing details based on patterns and previous experiences, creating a false or exaggerated version of reality. One classic optical illusion is the famous Necker cube, a simple line drawing of a cube that can be interpreted in two different ways. The brain shifts between these interpretations, filling in the missing information to create either a cube that faces forward or one that faces backward. The fact that the brain can effortlessly switch between these two perspectives is a testament to its flexibility and capacity to create a consistent, stable experience of reality, even when there's ambiguity. Similarly, the brain can be tricked into seeing faces in inanimate objects. This phenomenon, known as pareidolia, occurs when the brain interprets random shapes and patterns as familiar objects, often faces. This tendency to recognize faces even when they don't exist is thought to be an evolutionary advantage. Our brains are so adept at detecting human faces that they can even create them out of random patterns in clouds, rock formations, or electrical outlets. The brain fills in missing details based on its deep-seated knowledge of faces and social interactions, creating an image that feels real even though it's not. Filling in missing sounds. The brain's ability to fill in missing information is not limited to vision. It extends to other senses, including hearing. Our brains are constantly receiving auditory input, but the information we hear is often incomplete or distorted. The brain uses contextual clues and patterns to fill in the missing parts of sounds, allowing us to understand speech even when it's muffled or fragmented. For example, when you're listening to someone speak in a noisy environment, like a crowded cafe or a party, the brain uses its knowledge of language to fill in gaps in the conversation. If someone says, "I'll meet you at the Decadillon on Earl," your brain will automatically fill in the blank with an appropriate word based on the context, perhaps restaurant, park, or library. Similarly, if a phone call drops and you only hear part of a sentence, the brain can still reconstruct the meaning by predicting what was likely said. This ability to make educated guesses based on auditory context is why we can still have conversations even in less than ideal listening conditions. The same principle applies when we're listening to music. Sometimes parts of a song might be distorted, muffled, or missing entirely, but our brain compensates by filling in the blanks. This phenomenon is why we might still enjoy a piece of music even if it's playing in a noisy environment or if parts of the sound are lost. Memory and the filling of gaps. Memory is another area where the brain fills in missing details. Our memories are not perfect records of events. Instead, they are reconstructed based on the information we have available at the time. When we recall a memory, we often fill in the gaps with information that feels consistent with the context of the event, even if that information wasn't originally part of the memory. This process is part of the reason why human memory can be so unreliable. Our brains tend to combine fragments of information from different experiences, making our memories feel more complete than they actually are. This can lead to false memories, instances where we remember things that never happened or recall events differently than they occurred. The brain's tendency to fill in missing details with plausible, contextually appropriate information is both a blessing and a curse, allowing us to piece together coherent stories from our past, even if the facts are a little blurry. The role of attention in filling information gaps. While the brain is constantly working to fill in missing information, it's also heavily influenced by our attention. The more focused we are on something, the more likely we are to notice when information is missing. On the other hand, when we're distracted or not paying full attention, the brain can more easily fill in the gaps without us noticing. This is why, in some cases, we might overlook inconsistencies or errors in our environment. If we're not paying attention to the details, the brain will simply smooth over them, creating the illusion of a complete and coherent experience. For example, think about the last time you were deeply engaged in a conversation or focused on a task. It's easy to overlook small discrepancies or mistakes in the environment, such as a door being slightly ajar or a clock running a few minutes fast. The brain is filling in these details, subconsciously creating a version of reality that makes sense to us in that moment. However, if we were to suddenly shift our attention to those discrepancies, we would likely notice them and realize that our perception had been altered. The brain's impressive efficiency. The ability of the brain to fill in missing information without us noticing is a testament to its efficiency and adaptability. This cognitive process allows us to navigate the world seamlessly, even when the information we receive is incomplete or imperfect. The brain works tirelessly behind the scenes to create a coherent and continuous experience of reality, even if that means filling in gaps with educated guesses, predictions, and assumptions. This ability is not only remarkable, but essential. It allows us to function in a world that is often unpredictable and ambiguous. Without the brain's ability to fill in the missing pieces, we would likely struggle to make sense of even the most basic experiences. Whether it's hearing a word in a noisy room, recognizing a face in a crowd, or recalling a memory from years ago, the brain's ability to create a complete picture from fragmented information is what allows us to move through life with ease. Conclusion: the brain's ability to fill in missing information is one of its most impressive and unnoticed feats. Whether it's through the use of context, patterns, prior knowledge, or the subtle manipulation of memory, the brain constantly works to make the world feel complete, even when the details are lacking. Why do we feel nostalgic? The science of longing for the past. There are moments when a familiar scent, an old song, or a childhood memory washes over us, pulling us back to a time that feels warm, distant, and somehow perfect. Nostalgia is a feeling we all experience, a bittersweet longing for the past, a yearning for something that may no longer exist in the same way. But why do we feel nostalgic? What is it about certain memories that make them so powerful? And why does this emotion often feel comforting rather than painful? The nature of nostalgia. Nostalgia is more than just remembering the past. It is a deeply emotional experience that blends happiness with a sense of longing. Unlike ordinary memories, nostalgic moments carry an almost dreamlike quality. They are often tinged with warmth, even if the past they recall wasn't entirely perfect. We tend to remember events from our younger years with more emotional intensity, often filtering out the negative and holding on to the positive. This selective process isn't a flaw. It's the way our brains help us find meaning in our experiences. The mind shapes our past into a story that makes sense, highlighting the moments that felt important, joyful, or defining. Nostalgia is not just a passive memory. It is an emotional lens through which we view our past with a sense of appreciation, even if that past was once challenging. The role of the brain in nostalgia. At its core, nostalgia is a function of memory and emotion, both of which are processed by specific regions of the brain. The hippocampus, which plays a major role in forming and retrieving memories, works closely with the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions. When a sensory cue, a scent, a song, a photograph, triggers a nostalgic memory, these areas of the brain activate, creating a vivid emotional experience. Interestingly, nostalgia has a unique way of shaping our emotions. Studies have shown that even though it carries a sense of longing, it often has a positive effect on our mood. This is because nostalgia tends to focus on moments of connection, love, or personal growth. It reminds us of who we were and how far we've come. This emotional uplift can provide comfort during times of stress or uncertainty, acting as a kind of psychological refuge. Why we feel nostalgic more as we age. Though nostalgia can strike at any age, it tends to become more frequent as we grow older. One reason for this is the way our memory works. The reminiscence bump is a phenomenon in which people tend to recall events from their late teens and early 20s with greater clarity and emotional depth. These years are often filled with formative experiences, first loves, big adventures, life-changing decisions, making them rich sources of nostalgic memories. As we get older, nostalgia can serve as a bridge between who we were and who we have become. It allows us to revisit past versions of ourselves, reconnecting with moments that shaped our identities. This may explain why people often become more nostalgic during periods of transition or change. Whether it's moving to a new city, starting a family, or simply feeling the passage of time, nostalgia acts as a grounding force, reminding us of the continuity in our lives. The connection between nostalgia and happiness. While nostalgia often carries a sense of longing, it is not necessarily a sad emotion. In fact, research suggests that nostalgic reflection can boost feelings of happiness, increase self-esteem, and even strengthen our sense of purpose. When we look back on meaningful experiences, we are reminded of the love, joy, and connections that have shaped our lives. These memories can serve as a reminder that we have experienced good things before and will again. Nostalgia also has a social function. It often revolves around shared experiences, family gatherings, friendships, traditions, and can strengthen our bonds with others. Recalling happy memories with loved ones creates a sense of belonging, reinforcing our connection to the people who have been part of our journey. Even when nostalgia is a solo experience, it can foster a feeling of interconnectedness as it reminds us that we are part of a larger story. Nostalgia in a changing world. In an era of rapid change, nostalgia can feel like an anchor, providing comfort in the face of uncertainty. When the world feels unpredictable, nostalgic memories offer a sense of stability and familiarity. This is one reason why people often seek out nostalgic experiences during challenging times. Watching old movies, listening to childhood songs, or flipping through photo albums can create a sense of reassurance, reminding us of a time when things felt simpler. Interestingly, nostalgia is often tied to cultural touchstones, music, fashion, technology, and even food from past decades. This collective nostalgia is why trends from the past frequently resurface. Whether it's the revival of vinyl records, the return of retro fashion, or the resurgence of old TV shows, these cultural callbacks tap into the universal longing for familiarity. They allow us to reconnect with a time that feels safe, even if only for a moment. The balance between past and present. While nostalgia can be a comforting and enriching experience, it's important to balance it with living in the present. The past, no matter how beautiful in memory, is not a place we can return to. It is a part of us, but life continues to unfold in the present. Rather than seeing nostalgia as an escape, we can view it as a reminder of what makes life meaningful. If we find ourselves longing for the joy, excitement, or connection of the past, perhaps that's a sign to seek out those same feelings in the present. The essence of what made those memories special, love, adventure, connection, can still be created today. Nostalgia is not about clinging to the past, but about appreciating the richness of our experiences. It is a quiet celebration of the journey we have taken, a reflection of the moments that shaped us. And while we may long for yesterday, it is also a gentle reminder that today will one day become a cherished memory as well. How emotions are stored in the body and mind. Emotions are not just fleeting thoughts or passing moods. They live within us, shaping our experiences, influencing our bodies, and leaving imprints that last far beyond the moment they arise. They are stored in both the mind and the body, forming patterns that affect our well-being, our reactions, and even our physical health. We often think of emotions as intangible, existing only in the realm of thoughts and feelings, but they manifest deeply within our nervous system, muscles, and even the way we breathe. Understanding how emotions are stored helps us process them more fully, allowing us to release what no longer serves us and embrace a greater sense of balance. The mind's role in storing emotions. The brain is the center of emotional processing. When we experience an emotion, different areas of the brain work together to interpret, react, and store that feeling. The amygdala, often referred to as the emotional memory center, plays a crucial role in linking emotions with experiences. It helps us learn from situations, storing feelings of fear, joy, sadness, and excitement so that we can respond appropriately in the future. The hippocampus, another key brain structure, helps place emotions within the context of time and memory. This is why certain events trigger strong emotional responses, even years later. A song, a scent, or a place can transport us instantly to a moment from the past, reigniting the emotions associated with it. Sometimes we aren't even aware of why a certain situation feels emotionally charged. This is because our subconscious mind has stored emotions connected to past experiences, even if we don't consciously remember them. How the body stores emotions don't just stay in the mind. They settle into the body. When we feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, our muscles tense up, our heart rate changes, and our breath becomes shallow. These physical responses are not just temporary, they can become ingrained patterns, shaping the way we carry ourselves. Tension often builds up in specific areas of the body based on the types of emotions we suppress. For example, the shoulders and neck. These areas often hold stress and responsibility, tightening when we feel burdened or pressured. The chest. Emotional pain, grief, or heartbreak can create a heaviness in the chest, sometimes affecting breathing patterns. The stomach. Anxiety and fear often manifest in the gut, leading to digestive discomfort or tightness. The jaw and face. Anger, frustration, or suppressed emotions can lead to clenching of the jaw or tension in the facial muscles. When emotions are not processed fully, they may remain stored in these areas, leading to chronic tension, discomfort, or even illness. This is why body-based practices such as yoga, breathwork, or massage can sometimes release unexpected emotions, because the body is holding on to feelings we may not have fully acknowledged. The connection between emotions and the nervous system. Our nervous system plays a crucial role in how emotions are experienced and stored. The autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary functions like heartbeat and digestion, has two main states. The sympathetic nervous system, responsible for the fight or flight response, activates when we feel threatened or stressed. When this system is engaged, the body prepares for action, increasing heart rate and muscle tension. The parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest mode, helps the body relax and recover. This system is essential for emotional healing, as it allows us to process and release stored tension. When we experience ongoing stress or emotional trauma, Our nervous system may get stuck in a heightened state of alertness. Over time, this can make it difficult to fully relax, even when the immediate stressor is gone. Practices such as deep breathing, meditation, or time in nature can help shift the body back into a state of balance, allowing stored emotions to be processed and released. How unprocessed emotions affect well-being. When emotions are not acknowledged or expressed, they don't simply disappear. They remain within the body, influencing our physical health, our behaviors, and even our thought patterns. Suppressed emotions can lead to fatigue, chronic pain, headaches, digestive issues, or a general sense of discomfort that seems to have no clear cause. Emotionally unresolved feelings can contribute to patterns of reactivity, moments when a seemingly small situation triggers an intense emotional response. This happens because the body and mind have stored similar past emotions, causing the present moment to feel bigger than it actually is. By becoming more aware of how emotions are stored in the body, we can start to notice where we hold tension, what situations trigger emotional responses, and how we can create space for release. Releasing stored emotions. Emotions are meant to move through us, not remain stuck within us. There are many ways to gently release stored emotions, allowing the body and mind to return to a more natural state of ease. Some effective practices include breath work. Conscious breathing helps regulate the nervous system, releasing tension stored in the body. Deep belly breathing can be particularly effective in calming stored fear or anxiety. Movement. Physical activity, whether through yoga, dancing, stretching, or even walking, helps shift stored energy and allows emotions to move. Journaling. Writing about emotions can bring awareness to patterns and allow feelings to be processed in a safe, intentional way. Mindfulness and meditation. By bringing awareness to the present moment, we can observe emotions without judgment, making it easier to release them. Therapy and emotional processing techniques. Speaking with a therapist, engaging in body-focused therapies, or practicing guided emotional release techniques can help uncover and heal deep-seated emotions. Embracing emotional flow. Rather than seeing emotions as something to be controlled or avoided, we can learn to view them as natural waves moving through us. Just as the body processes food, it also processes emotions, if we allow it to do so. When we resist emotions, they linger. When we acknowledge and express them, they pass through us, leaving behind the wisdom of the experience without the weight of unprocessed energy. By listening to both the mind and the body, we can develop a deeper awareness of where emotions are stored, how they influence us, and what we need to release them. In doing so, we create space for greater clarity, inner peace, and a deeper connection to ourselves. The body and mind are not separate. They work together to hold our emotional experiences. Understanding this connection allows us to move through life with more ease, knowing that emotions are not meant to be trapped within us, but rather to flow, shift, and transform, just as we do. The psychology of comfort zones. Why change feels so hard? There is a place within each of us where things feel familiar, predictable, and safe. It's where routines flow effortlessly, where we know what to expect, and where challenges are few. This is the comfort zone, a psychological space that offers security, but at times also keeps us from growth. Stepping outside of it can feel uncomfortable, uncertain, even frightening. But why does change feel so hard? What makes us resist even the changes we know could benefit us? Understanding the psychology behind comfort zones reveals why we cling to familiarity and how we can gently expand beyond it. What is a comfort zone? A comfort zone is not just a physical space, it is a mental and emotional state. It includes familiar habits, environments, and ways of thinking that allow us to function with minimal stress. Within this zone, we operate on autopilot, making decisions based on what we already know. The brain prefers this because familiarity requires less energy. Predictability makes life feel stable, reducing anxiety and allowing us to focus on daily tasks without overwhelming ourselves with new challenges. However, while comfort zones provide security, they can also limit growth. When we avoid new experiences, we may miss opportunities to learn, develop new skills, or discover deeper aspects of ourselves. This is why, even when we crave change, we often hesitate. The brain's resistance to change. The brain is wired for efficiency and survival. Change, even positive change, introduces uncertainty, which the brain interprets as a potential risk. This is why stepping outside of our comfort zone can trigger feelings of anxiety or self-doubt. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear, becomes activated, sending signals that something is unfamiliar and therefore possibly dangerous. This response made sense in early human history when unfamiliar environments often contained real threats. But in modern life, the danger we fear is often emotional: fear of failure, embarrassment, or the unknown. Even when there is no actual threat, the brain reacts as if there is, making change feel much harder than it truly is. Additionally, the brain seeks patterns. When we do something repeatedly, neural pathways form, making that behavior feel natural. This is why habits and routines feel comfortable. They have been reinforced over time. In introducing a new habit or mindset requires creating new neural pathways, which takes effort and repetition before it feels natural. The fear of the unknown. One of the biggest reasons we resist change is the fear of the unknown. The comfort zone provides a sense of control. Outside of it, we face uncertainty, and the mind does not like uncertainty. It prefers to know what to expect, even if what's familiar isn't ideal. This is why people sometimes stay in jobs they don't love, relationships that no longer serve them, or patterns that limit them, because the known feels safer than the unknown. The mind often fills unknown spaces with worst-case scenarios. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if things don't work out? These thoughts can be paralyzing, making it easier to stay in place rather than step into new territory. But the unknown also holds possibility, the potential for learning, excitement, and personal evolution. The growth zone, beyond comfort. Between the comfort zone and the place of true growth lies a middle ground, a space where discomfort is present but manageable. This is where expansion happens, but only when approached gradually. Too much change too fast can overwhelm the nervous system, triggering a retreat back to safety. But small, intentional steps allow us to stretch our limits without feeling completely out of control. This is why progress happens in stages. What once felt uncomfortable eventually becomes familiar, expanding the boundaries of what we can handle. Over time, what was once outside the comfort zone becomes a new comfort zone, proving that growth is not about sudden leaps, but about steady movement forward. Why leaving the comfort zone feels rewarding. Despite the initial resistance, Stepping outside of comfort zones often leads to some of the most rewarding experiences. When we take risks, big or small, we challenge limiting beliefs, build confidence, and develop resilience. Each time we prove to ourselves that we can handle something new, we strengthen our ability to face future challenges with less fear. Growth also brings excitement and fulfillment. While comfort zones provide stability, too much stability can lead to stagnation. Without challenge, life can start to feel repetitive. Trying something new, whether it's a skill, a mindset, or a life change, adds variety and energy to life, keeping the mind engaged and the spirit alive. Finding balance between comfort and growth. While growth is important, so is balance. Pushing too hard too fast can create stress, while staying too comfortable can lead to stagnation. The key is learning when to push forward and when to allow yourself rest. Expanding a comfort zone doesn't mean abandoning it entirely. It means stretching it in a way that feels sustainable. Instead of seeing discomfort as a sign to stop, it can be reframed as a sign of growth. A little nervousness before trying something new doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It means you are stepping into possibility. With time, what once felt uncertain becomes familiar, and the cycle of growth continues. Embracing the journey change will always feel a little uncomfortable because it requires us to step into the unknown. But that discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of expansion. By understanding how comfort zones work, we can move through resistance with more awareness, knowing that each step forward builds confidence and resilience. Growth doesn't mean abandoning comfort altogether. It means creating a life where both safety and possibility coexist, where we can rest in what is familiar, but also step forward into what is new. In this balance, life remains both steady and full of discovery, a journey where comfort and change walk hand in hand. The power of silence, how the mind reacts to stillness. Silence is rare in a world filled with constant noise. We wake up to alarms, move through conversations, absorb music, podcasts, and notifications. Even when external sounds fade, the mind keeps running, filling quiet spaces with thoughts, memories, and plans. But what happens when we truly embrace stillness? How does the mind react when we allow silence to settle in? Though often overlooked, silence holds a quiet power. It is not merely the absence of sound, but a space of depth, reflection, and transformation. It allows the mind to slow down, to breathe, to reset. But for many, silence feels unfamiliar, even unsettling. This is because the mind is used to movement, used to being filled. When we stop, something shifts, and in that shift, something profound begins to unfold. The initial resistance to silence. For those unaccustomed to stillness, silence can feel uncomfortable at first. When the usual distractions fade, the mind may resist, bringing up restless thoughts or a sense of unease. This happens because silence removes the external noise we use to keep ourselves occupied. Without it, we are left with our own thoughts, our own emotions. At first, this can feel overwhelming. The mind, accustomed to stimulation, searches for something to hold on to. It may replay past events, create imagined scenarios, or fill the space with lists of things to do. But if we allow ourselves to sit with this discomfort, something changes. The noise settles. The thoughts become clearer. And in that quiet, we begin to truly listen, not just to the world around us, but to ourselves. How the brain reacts to stillness. When we enter silence, the brain shifts from a state of external focus to a more introspective mode. The default mode network, a collection of brain regions linked to self-reflection and creativity, becomes more active. This is why moments of stillness often bring new insights. When the external world quiets, the inner world expands. Silence also reduces stress. Without constant sensory input, the nervous system calms, heart rate slows, and cortisol levels decrease. The brain moves into a more relaxed state, similar to meditation, where thoughts become less frantic and the body more at ease. Over time, regular exposure to silence strengthens areas of the brain associated with memory, problem solving, and emotional regulation. Just as muscles grow stronger through exercise, the mind becomes more resilient when given time to rest in stillness. The emotional depth of silence. Silence does more than relax the mind. It opens space for emotions to surface. In the absence of distractions, we become more aware of feelings that may have been pushed aside. This is why stillness can sometimes bring unexpected waves of emotion. For some, silence reveals unprocessed grief, tension, or fears that have been buried beneath daily distractions. For others, it brings clarity, a realization of what truly matters, of what has been ignored or neglected. These moments, though sometimes intense, are deeply healing. In the quiet, we meet ourselves fully, without filters, without noise. And in doing so, we begin to understand ourselves in ways we never could before. Silence and creativity. Some of the greatest insights arise in moments of stillness. Writers, musicians, and thinkers throughout history have spoken of the power of quiet reflection in sparking creativity. This is because the mind, when not occupied by external noise, begins to wander freely. In silence, the subconscious mind has space to form new connections. Ideas that once seemed unrelated come together. Solutions to problems emerge without force. This is why we often have our best ideas in quiet moments, while walking alone, gazing at the sky, or sitting in stillness. The mind, when given room to breathe, creates. The restorative power of quiet spaces. In a world that moves quickly, silence is a form of rest. Just as the body needs sleep to recover, the mind needs stillness to reset. Yet we rarely allow ourselves this kind of rest. We fill gaps with music, screens, conversations, anything to avoid the quiet. But when we intentionally create moments of silence, we give ourselves a gift. Even a few minutes of stillness can restore clarity. Pausing between tasks, sitting without distractions, or simply breathing in a quiet room can reset the nervous system. Over time, these small moments add up, creating a sense of inner calm that carries into daily life. Learning to embrace silence. Silence, like any practice, takes time to become comfortable with. At first, it may feel empty, but the more we sit with it, the more we discover its richness. It is in silence that we hear the whispers of intuition, that we reconnect with ourselves beyond the noise of the world. Welcoming stillness does not mean avoiding sound. It means allowing space for both sound and silence to exist in balance. It means creating moments in each day where we step away from distractions, even briefly, to listen to the quiet beneath it all. And in that quiet, we find something profound. Not just the absence of noise, but the presence of something deeper. A space where the mind can settle, where thoughts can clear, where we can simply be. Why some memories feel more emotional than others. Not all memories are created equal. Some drift in and out of awareness like distant echoes, while others remain vivid, carrying a weight that lingers. Certain moments, even those from long ago, still stir emotions as if they happened yesterday. A song, a scent, or a familiar place can transport us instantly to a past experience, bringing joy, nostalgia, or even sadness. But why do some memories feel more emotional than others? What makes certain moments so deeply ingrained in our minds while others fade away? The role of emotion in memory. Memory and emotion are closely linked. When we experience something emotionally significant, our brain processes and stores it differently than neutral experiences. This is because emotions act as amplifiers, making certain events more memorable. Moments of intense joy, fear, love, or sadness create stronger imprints in the brain, ensuring that we remember them more vividly. At the heart of this process is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure in the brain responsible for processing emotions. When something significant happens, whether it's a thrilling surprise, a heartbreaking loss, or a moment of deep connection, the amygdala signals to the brain that this moment is important. It then works alongside the hippocampus, which is responsible for storing memories, to strengthen the details of the experience. This is why emotionally charged events, such as a first kiss, a childhood accident, or the loss of a loved one, remain with us for years while everyday experiences quickly fade. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the memory is embedded. Why negative memories can feel stronger. While joyful memories can be powerful, negative experiences often feel even more vivid and lasting. This is due to the brain's survival instincts. From an evolutionary perspective, remembering threats and dangers was essential for survival. If a situation caused fear or pain, the brain ensured that the memory remained strong to help avoid similar dangers in the future. This is why embarrassing moments, failures, or painful experiences tend to replay in the mind more easily than neutral or positive ones. The brain prioritizes these memories, making them more difficult to forget. However, while this survival mechanism was useful in ancient times, in modern life, it can sometimes make people dwell on past mistakes or painful moments more than they would like. The power of nostalgia. Some memories feel emotional not because of the events themselves, but because of what they represent. Nostalgia, a bittersweet longing for the past, adds depth to certain memories, making them feel more meaningful. A childhood summer, a favorite song from youth, or the scent of a loved one's perfume can bring back not just a moment, but an entire feeling of a different time in life. Nostalgia is powerful because it connects us to our sense of self. It reminds us of who we were, where we've been, and what has shaped us. Even simple memories such as laughing with old friends or sitting in a familiar place carry emotion because they represent a part of our journey. Interestingly, nostalgia often romanticizes the past. The mind tends to highlight the warmth and meaning of certain memories while softening the less pleasant details. This is why people often look back on childhood or past relationships with a sense of longing, even if those times weren't perfect. The brain naturally preserves the emotional essence of an experience rather than every factual detail. Memory triggers, how the past resurfaces. Many emotional memories don't appear in our minds randomly. They are triggered by sensory experiences. The smell of fresh bread may remind someone of their grandmother's kitchen. A certain melody might transport a person back to a moment of heartbreak or happiness. These triggers are powerful because they bypass logical thinking and bring emotions straight to the surface. This happens because the brain stores memories alongside sensory details. When we experience something, our senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, are all involved. Later encountering a similar sensory cue can reactivate the emotional memory, making it feel as real as the original experience. This is why memories tied to strong sensory experiences, such as a breathtaking sunset or a comforting embrace, often feel richer and more alive. The mind doesn't just store the event itself, but the entire atmosphere around it. Why some memories fade, while others stay. Not all emotional memories last forever. Over time, even significant experiences can fade, while others remain as vivid as ever. This depends on a few factors. 1. Repetition. The more a memory is revisited, either in thought or conversation, the stronger it becomes. Telling a story repeatedly reinforces the neural pathways associated with it, keeping the memory fresh. 2. Emotional intensity. Highly emotional moments create stronger imprints, but if an event was only mildly emotional, it may gradually fade. 3. Relevance. Memories that continue to shape our identity or life choices tend to stay. If a past experience still holds meaning, the brain keeps it more accessible. 4. Time and perspective. As we grow, certain memories become less relevant. The emotions tied to them soften, allowing them to fade into the background of our minds. Embracing the emotional depth of memory. Memories are more than just images from the past. They are experiences that continue to shape who we are. The ones that carry strong emotion remind us of what has mattered most in our lives: love, loss, adventure, change, and connection. While not all memories are pleasant, even difficult ones hold meaning, teaching us about resilience and growth. Rather than fearing the emotions that memories bring, we can embrace them as part of the rich tapestry of our lives. Whether joyful, painful, or nostalgic, these moments remind us that we have lived, felt deeply, and carried pieces of our past into the present. And in that, there is something profoundly beautiful. Why the brain loves fear. The science behind horror and thrill fear is often seen as something to avoid. It's the feeling that grips the chest, quickens the breath, and sends a shiver down the spine. And yet, many people seek it out willingly. They watch horror films, ride roller coasters, explore haunted houses, and chase adrenaline-fueled experiences that make their hearts race. Why does the brain enjoy fear when it is designed to protect us from danger? What is it about the thrill of the unknown that keeps us coming back for more? The brain's fear. Response fear is one of the most primal human emotions. It has existed for as long as life itself, hardwired into the brain to keep us safe. When the brain detects a threat, whether real or imagined, it activates the amygdala, the part responsible for processing fear. This triggers a cascade of physical reactions. The heart beats faster, muscles tense, and adrenaline surges through the body, preparing it for fight or flight. But fear doesn't always come from real danger. Sometimes it's experienced in safe, controlled environments, like a dark movie theater or an amusement park. In these cases, the brain still reacts as if the threat is real, at least at first. Then, as it recognizes that there's no actual danger, another part of the brain steps in, allowing us to enjoy the experience rather than be overwhelmed by it. The thrill of controlled fear. The key to enjoying fear lies in control. When fear comes with real danger, like being chased by a wild animal or lost in a storm, the brain remains in survival mode. But when fear is experienced in a setting where there's no actual risk, it transforms into excitement. This is why people enjoy activities like skydiving, bungee jumping, or horror movies. The fear is real, but so is the safety. The brain gets the rush without the risk. When this happens, the brain releases dopamine, the same chemical associated with pleasure and reward. This creates a paradox. Fear, when controlled, can feel exhilarating. It's why people scream on roller coasters but laugh afterward. The body reacts as if it's in danger, but the mind knows it's safe, turning fear into thrill. The psychology of horror movies are a perfect example of how the brain plays with fear. When watching a terrifying scene, the body reacts as if the danger is real. Heart pounding, breath quickening, muscles tensing. But deep down, the mind knows it's just a film. This balance between fear and safety is what makes horror so compelling. Horror also taps into curiosity. The unknown, the mysterious, and the unsettling all trigger a deep psychological urge to explore. The mind wants to understand what lurks in the shadows, even if it's afraid of what it might find. This is why ghost stories, urban legends, and eerie atmospheres can be so captivating. The brain craves the tension between fear and curiosity. Interestingly, horror can also create a sense of relief. After experiencing intense fear, the body releases endorphins, natural chemicals that bring a sense of calm and euphoria. This is why people often feel energized after a scary movie or a haunted house visit. Fear builds tension, and when that tension is released, it creates a satisfying emotional contrast. Fear and memory. Fearful experiences, whether thrilling or truly dangerous, are more likely to be remembered. This is because fear heightens awareness, making the brain store details more vividly. It's a survival mechanism. If something frightening happens, the brain ensures that it won't be forgotten easily, so it can be avoided in the future. But in the case of controlled fear, this effect makes horror movies and thrilling experiences more memorable. People recall the excitement, the tension, and the way they felt during the scariest moments. This is why scary stories from childhood linger in the mind long after they are heard, and why the feeling of a first haunted house visit remains vivid for years. The social aspect of fear. Fear isn't just an individual experience. It's often something people share. Watching horror movies with friends, visiting haunted houses, or telling ghost stories around a fire all create a unique social bond. When people experience fear together, they instinctively seek comfort in each other, strengthening social connections. This is why couples on a scary date often feel closer afterward, and why groups who face a thrilling challenge together share a sense of camaraderie. Fear triggers a need for connection, making shared experiences feel more intense and meaningful. Why some love fear more than others. Not everyone enjoys fear the same way. Some people actively seek out scary experiences, while others avoid them. This difference comes down to personality, brain chemistry, and past experiences. 1. Sensation seekers. Some individuals have a natural desire for intense experiences. Their brains crave excitement, and controlled fear provides the perfect rush. They enjoy pushing boundaries and testing their limits. 2. Empathy levels. Those with higher empathy may find horror and thrill-seeking more overwhelming as they deeply feel the emotions of fear and distress. 3. Past experiences. Someone who has had traumatic experiences with fear may be more sensitive to it, while those who have grown up enjoying scary stories may associate fear with excitement rather than distress. The balance between fear and fun. While the brain enjoys controlled fear, too much can become overwhelming. When fear crosses into real anxiety or distress, it stops being enjoyable. This is why some people love horror movies but can't handle real-life suspense, and why some enjoy roller coasters but not heights. The brain needs just the right balance, enough fear to create excitement, but enough safety to keep it enjoyable. The beauty of fear. Fear is often seen as something negative, but in the right context, it can be thrilling, exciting, and even fun. It reminds us that we are alive, that we can feel deeply, and that we can face the unknown and come out stronger. Whether it's the heart-pounding rush of a scary story, the exhilaration of a roller coaster, or the eerie thrill of exploring a darkened room, fear, when embraced, becomes something more than just an emotion. It becomes an experience. And sometimes that experience is exactly what the brain craves. The Psychology of Overthinking. How to quiet the mind. The mind is always active, weaving thoughts together, analyzing situations, and searching for answers. This ability to think deeply is a gift, allowing us to solve problems, reflect on life, and make meaningful decisions. But sometimes thinking becomes too much. Thoughts spiral, replaying the same worries, regrets, and what-ifs over and over again. This is overthinking, the feeling of being stuck in the mind, unable to find peace. Overthinking can feel exhausting. A simple decision turns into a mental debate. A small mistake from the past replays endlessly. Future possibilities, both good and bad, unfold in the mind like an endless movie. The mind races, looking for certainty in a world that rarely offers it. But why does the brain do this? And how can we learn to quiet the noise? Why the mind overthinks overthinking is rooted in the brain's natural tendency to seek safety. The mind is wired to analyze situations, predict outcomes, and learn from past experiences. This was essential for survival. Early humans needed to think ahead to avoid danger, prepare for the unknown, and learn from their mistakes. But in modern life, the same instincts can become overwhelming. Instead of analyzing immediate threats, the mind fixates on things that are out of our control. Past conversations, future uncertainties, or hypothetical scenarios. Overthinking often arises from a desire for control. If we think enough, plan enough, or analyze enough, we believe we can avoid mistakes, pain, or failure. However, the more we overthink, the more trapped we feel. Instead of finding clarity, the mind becomes tangled in its own thoughts. Overthinking can turn small problems into big ones, making simple decisions feel heavy and emotions feel more intense. The different forms of overthinking. Not all overthinking looks the same. It can take different forms, each with its own pattern. 1. Rumination. Replaying past mistakes, regrets, or embarrassing moments. The mind fixates on what should have been different, even though the past cannot change. 2. Worrying about the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, over-preparing, or fearing what might go wrong. The mind tries to control what hasn't happened yet. 3. Indecisiveness. Overanalyzing every possible choice, fearing that the wrong decision will lead to regret. Even small decisions feel overwhelming. 4. Seeking perfection. Overthinking how things should be done, fearing failure, and putting pressure on every action to be just right. Each of these patterns comes from the same place, the mind trying to protect us. But instead of creating safety, overthinking often creates stress, restlessness, and mental exhaustion. How to quiet the mind. The good news is that overthinking isn't permanent. The mind can learn to slow down, let go, and find peace. It starts with awareness, recognizing when thoughts become overwhelming and choosing to shift perspective. 1. Step back from thoughts. Not every thought needs to be believed or followed. Imagine thoughts as clouds passing in the sky. Observe them, but don't hold on to them. 2. Practice mindfulness. Focusing on the present moment can break the cycle of overthinking. Simple activities like deep breathing, walking, or listening to music can bring awareness back to the now. 3. Limit what-if thinking. Instead of imagining every possible outcome, remind yourself that uncertainty is part of life. The future is unknown, but overthinking won't make it any clearer. 4. Set time for reflection. Instead of letting thoughts run all day, give them a designated space. Set aside time to reflect, journal, or process emotions, then let them go. 5. Engage in something physical. Movement helps shift focus from the mind to the body. Stretching, yoga, or even simple tasks like cooking or cleaning can create a sense of presence. 6. Challenge perfectionism. Accepting that not everything needs to be perfect can release a huge mental burden. Progress is better than overanalyzing every detail. 7. Trust yourself. Overthinking often comes from self-doubt, but deep down, intuition and experience are stronger than endless analysis. Learning to trust in your own decisions can bring freedom. Finding stillness in a busy mind. A quiet mind isn't an empty mind, it's a peaceful one. Thoughts will always come and go, but they don't have to control us. By letting go of unnecessary worry or embracing the present and allowing life to unfold naturally, the mind can find stillness. Overthinking may feel like a habit, but like any habit, it can change. Each moment is a chance to step out of the spiral and into clarity. And in that space beyond the noise, a calm and steady mind is waiting. Why do we procrastinate? The battle between logic and emotion. Procrastination is a familiar experience. The deadline approaches, the task waits, and yet, instead of starting, time is spent scrolling, tidying, or daydreaming. The mind knows what needs to be done, but something holds it back. Logic says, just start, but emotion whispers, not yet. It's easy to think of procrastination as laziness or a lack of willpower, but it's far more complex. It's a psychological tug-of-war where different parts of the brain fight for control. Understanding why we procrastinate can help us navigate the tension between logic and emotion and perhaps finally take action. The mind's inner conflict. The brain is not a single, unified system. It has different regions with different functions, and sometimes they disagree. When it comes to procrastination, two main forces are at play. 1. The rational mind. This is the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision-making, and long-term goals. It understands deadlines, responsibilities, and the benefits of completing tasks on time. 2. The emotional mind. This is the limbic system, responsible for feelings, impulses, and seeking pleasure. It prioritizes comfort and avoids stress, preferring short-term rewards over long-term gains. When faced with a task that feels overwhelming, boring, or uncertain, the emotional mind resists. It perceives discomfort and urges us to do something easier, more enjoyable, or immediately rewarding. This is why instead of starting a project, we check social media, clean the desk, or watch just one more video. The emotional mind wins the battle, and logic is pushed aside. Why we delay tasks. Procrastination is not just about avoiding work. It's about avoiding emotions. Different tasks trigger different emotional responses, and procrastination is the brain's way of managing those feelings. 1. Fear of failure. When a task feels challenging or important, fear creeps in. The mind wonders, what if I don't do it well? To avoid the discomfort of self-doubt, it delays starting. 2. Perfectionism. The pressure to do something perfectly can make starting feel impossible. If the brain believes the result must be flawless, it hesitates, waiting for the perfect time or inspiration. 3. Lack of motivation. Some tasks don't bring immediate rewards, making them feel pointless in the moment. The mind prioritizes short-term gratification over long-term benefits. 4. Feeling overwhelmed. When a task is large or complex, it feels mentally heavy. The brain, not knowing where to begin, avoids it altogether. 5. Boredom and disinterest. Tasks that feel dull or repetitive trigger resistance. The brain seeks stimulation, making distractions more appealing. The cycle of procrastination. Procrastination often follows a predictable cycle. 1. A task needs to be done. The mind recognizes it but feels resistance. 2. Instead of starting, the mind seeks comfort in distractions, something easier, more enjoyable, or less stressful. 3. Temporary relief is felt, but guilt and stress build as time passes. 4. As the deadline looms, urgency kicks in. The rational mind takes control, and last-minute effort begins. 5. The task is completed, often with unnecessary stress. The cycle resets. How to overcome procrastination. Breaking free from procrastination isn't about willpower. It's about understanding the mind's tendencies and working with them. 1. Start small. Instead of focusing on the whole task, start with a tiny step. The mind resists big commitments but can handle small ones. Once started, momentum builds. 2. Lower the pressure. Perfection isn't necessary. Done is better than perfect. Shifting the focus from flawless execution to progress reduces resistance. 3. Make it enjoyable. Pairing tasks with enjoyable elements, like music, a cozy setting, or rewards, makes them feel less daunting. 4. Use time limits. The brain can handle short bursts of effort better than long stretches. The Pomodoro technique, working for short intervals with breaks, can make tasks feel manageable. 5. Reframe the task. Instead of seeing a task as a burden, view it as an opportunity. Shifting perspective can change emotional resistance into engagement. 6. Acknowledge the emotion. Recognizing that procrastination is emotional rather than logical helps. Instead of avoiding feelings, acknowledge them and start anyway. The balance between logic and emotion. Procrastination isn't failure, it's human nature. The mind is wired to seek comfort, but it's also capable of growth. The key isn't to silence emotions, but to navigate them, allowing logic to guide without dismissing feelings. By understanding why we delay, we can move forward with more ease. Tasks won't always feel exciting, but they don't have to be a battle. With small steps, gentle shifts, and a little self-compassion, the mind can find its way to action, one moment at a time. The Uncanny Valley. Why some things feel almost human, but not quite. There is something unsettling about a face that looks almost real, but not quite. A robot with human-like expressions, a digital character that blinks just a little too slowly, or a doll whose glassy eyes seem too lifelike yet strangely empty. These near-human figures exist in what is known as the Uncanny Valley, a space where familiarity turns into unease and recognition shifts into discomfort. The uncanny valley is a psychological phenomenon, a peculiar reaction in the brain when confronted with something that seems human but is just slightly off. It's not fear exactly. It's more of a quiet disturbance, a feeling that something isn't quite right. But why does this happen? What is it about the almost human that unsettles us more than something clearly artificial? The strange dip in comfort. When we see a cartoon character, a teddy bear, or even a humanoid robot with exaggerated features, we feel at ease. These figures are obviously not real people, and our minds accept them as something separate from us. Likewise, when we see a real human face, we immediately recognize and connect with it. But when something is too close to human yet imperfect, too smooth, too stiff, or missing some subtle spark of life, the brain hesitates. Instead of familiarity, it triggers discomfort. The response is not just psychological, it's biological. Our brains are wired to read faces, detect emotions, and sense human presence. When those signals don't match up, something deep inside reacts with unease. Why does the uncanny valley exist? 1. Mismatch in expectations. The brain has a finely tuned system for recognizing faces and expressions. When an almost human figure doesn't align with expected patterns, perhaps its movements are too rigid, its eyes too glossy, or its smile just a little too delayed, the mind registers a disconnect. The result is an eerie sensation, as if something is pretending to be human, but failing. 2. Survival instincts. Some researchers believe that the uncanny valley is linked to ancient survival mechanisms. Throughout history, humans have needed to quickly assess whether another being was alive, healthy, or safe to approach. A face that looks human but seems slightly wrong might trigger subconscious warnings, perhaps a signal of disease, deception, or something unknown that should be avoided. 3. Fear of the inanimate. Coming to life. Many myths, folklore tales, and horror stories feature dolls, mannequins, or statues that suddenly move. The idea of something lifeless becoming animated is deeply unsettling. The uncanny valley taps into this fear. The moment when something artificial seems too close to real, making us question whether it is truly inanimate. 4. Loss of control. When faced with a near-human entity, we might feel uneasy because we don't fully understand it. A human's expressions, movements, and intentions are predictable, but an almost human figure disrupts that predictability. This subtle uncertainty can create an underlying feeling of unease. Where do we encounter the uncanny valley? The uncanny valley is not just an abstract concept. It appears in many areas of modern life. 1. Robots and AI. Advances in robotics and artificial intelligence have created human-like machines that smile, blink, and even respond in conversation. While impressive, these machines often fall into the uncanny valley, triggering discomfort rather than connection. 2. Digital humans and CGI. In movies and video games, digital characters sometimes appear hyper-realistic but slightly unnatural. A face that moves just a little too stiffly or eyes that lack depth can make a character seem eerie instead of lifelike. 3. Wax figures and mannequins. Museums and shop windows often contain figures that look incredibly human but remain frozen in time. A wax figure's lifelike details mixed with complete stillness can be unsettling. 4. Deep fake technology. Artificially generated faces, voice clones, and digitally manipulated videos can mimic real humans with striking accuracy. However, small imperfections, slight delays in speech, unnatural eye movements, or subtle distortions can trigger the uncanny valley effect, moving beyond the uncanny. As technology continues to advance, creators work to smooth out the uncanny valley. Animators refine facial expressions, robotics engineers adjust micro movements, and AI developers enhance voice modulation to make artificial beings feel more natural. The goal is to move past the unsettling gap and create machines, characters, and simulations that feel truly lifelike, without the eerie hesitation. But perhaps part of the uncanny valley will always remain. There is something uniquely human about sensing when something is just slightly off. The brain, with all its complexity, is deeply attuned to what it means to be alive, and anything that challenges that recognition stirs something deep within us. Maybe in the end, the uncanny valley is not just about what looks human, but about what it truly means to be human. The science of loneliness. How it affects the mind and body. Loneliness is a quiet feeling, one that can settle into the background of life without making a sound. It is not just about being alone. Some people feel lonely even in a crowded room, while others find deep peace in solitude. True loneliness is something deeper, a feeling of disconnection, of being unseen or unheard. It is a universal experience, yet deeply personal, shaping the way we think, feel, and even how our bodies function. Loneliness is not just an emotion, it is a biological signal, much like hunger or thirst. It tells us that something is missing, a sense of belonging, closeness, or connection. And just as the body suffers without food or water, the mind and body react to loneliness in ways that go beyond the surface, influencing everything from our thoughts to our physical health. How loneliness affects the brain. The human brain is wired for connection. From the earliest days of life, relationships shape neural pathways, teaching the mind how to interact, trust, and feel safe. When loneliness settles in, the brain responds in ways that reflect its deep need for social bonds. 1. Increased alertness. The brain perceives loneliness as a form of stress, activating the body's fight or flight system. This can lead to hyper-awareness, where the mind becomes more sensitive to social cues, sometimes misinterpreting neutral interactions as negative. 2. Changes in thought patterns. Loneliness can shift thinking, making the world feel less inviting. The brain may focus more on past rejections, heightening feelings of self-doubt or social hesitation. It becomes easier to believe that connection is out of reach, even when it is not. 3. Impact on memory and learning. Studies suggest that chronic loneliness can affect cognitive function. The brain, under long-term stress, may find it harder to concentrate, remember details, or process information as smoothly as it would in a state of connection. The physical effects of loneliness. Loneliness is not just felt in the mind, it leaves a mark on the body as well. The stress response triggered by loneliness can create real physical changes, influencing health in surprising ways. 1. Increased inflammation. When the body feels under threat, it produces inflammation as a defense mechanism. In small doses, this is helpful, but when loneliness becomes chronic, inflammation can contribute to long-term health issues, including heart disease and weakened immunity. 2. Disrupted sleep. Loneliness can make sleep feel restless and unrefreshing. The body, sensing social isolation as a form of danger, may remain in a state of alertness, making it harder to fully relax and recharge. 3. Effects on heart health. Studies suggest that loneliness can raise blood pressure and increase the risk of heart-related conditions. The absence of social bonds may make it harder for the body to regulate stress, leading to long-term strain on the cardiovascular system. 4. Lowered immunity. Social connection plays a role in immune function. Feelings of loneliness can weaken the body's ability to fight illness, making individuals more susceptible to colds, infections, and other health challenges. The difference between loneliness and solitude. It is important to distinguish between loneliness and solitude. While loneliness is the distressing feeling of being disconnected, solitude is the peaceful experience of being alone by choice. Solitude can be deeply fulfilling, offering space for reflection, creativity, and inner growth. The difference lies in whether aloneness feels like a burden or a gift. When solitude is chosen, it brings calmness and clarity. When loneliness lingers, it can feel heavy, making the world seem distant and unreachable. Finding connection in a disconnected world. Loneliness is not permanent. It is a signal, a reminder that connection is needed, and connection comes in many forms. 1. Small social steps. Reaching out, even in small ways, can shift the feeling of isolation. A short conversation, a message to a friend, or a shared moment with a stranger can bring warmth back into the day. 2. Engaging in shared activities. Finding spaces where connection happens naturally, whether through hobbies, volunteering, or community events, can ease the pressure of forced socialization and allow bonds to form organically. 3. Deepening existing relationships. Sometimes loneliness is not about a lack of people, but a lack of meaningful connection. Opening up, expressing emotions, and sharing thoughts can strengthen relationships and create a sense of belonging. 4. Self-compassion. Being kind to oneself during lonely moments is essential. Loneliness is a human experience, not a personal failing. Treating oneself with patience and care makes the journey toward connection gentler. The power of connection. Human beings are not meant to live in isolation. The mind and body thrive in connection, in shared laughter, deep conversations, and quiet moments of understanding. Loneliness may whisper that connection is out of reach, but it is always closer than it seems. Even the smallest moments of warmth, a smile, a kind word, a shared experience, can bridge the distance, turning loneliness into belonging, one step at a time. Thank you for watching till the end. Have a good sleep.